So I wanted to talk about this book, Die with Zero.
Cool, sounds interesting. Ordered it and then kind of just couldn't put it down.
It's actually genuinely changed my approach to spending and saving money.
You got to think, like, people who are successful have gotten really focused and really trained on doing something very well. And sometimes they do this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So all those other muscles, I'm going to call them muscles, like the go socialize with your neighbor muscle, the go travel and explore muscle, the discovery muscle, all those atrophy. And the only muscle they've been building is, I know how to conquer this vertical, right? I've conquered podcasting. I've conquered gym shorts, right? I've conquered real estate or whatever. And they just keep going and going. And they're absolute fucking beasts. But they now have forgot about life.
Today, I'm going to kind of share the lessons that I learned from reading this book and what my key takeaways were from Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. So where I want to start is talking about Thomas H. Lee. So Thomas H. Lee was a private equity titan. He had a net worth of almost $2 billion, and many consider him the father of private equity as an industry. He had a private equity firm that he ran for almost a half century, and he generated tens of billions of dollars for people all around the world. He had a wife that he had been married to for almost 3 decades, 5 kids and 2 grandkids. So pretty much a very picturesque life, something that most people would aspire to attaining and achieving in their life. And Thomas H. Lee is best known for selling Snapple for $1.7 billion in the 90s. So by all measures, a pretty well-rounded and successful life. But at the age of 78, he made the unfortunate decision of taking his own life. And he didn't even leave a note. So it makes you wonder what happened. You know, why did someone who had everything make this decision to end their own life? And a lot of times people say money does not buy happiness, but it's true, right? Life isn't some kind of video game where you can just run up the score and whoever has the largest bank account at the end live the happiest life. If you aren't spending money in a way that aligns with your values, if you aren't making money in a way that aligns with your values, if you aren't living your life in a way that aligns with your values and what you think is important, you can have what on its surface looks like a very successful, balanced life and be incredibly unhappy. And it really drove home that point that Die with Zero was trying to make, that money cannot buy happiness, and you need to think about money as a means to an end, or to actually employ it on the things that you value. So imagine in ripe old retirement that you decide to backpack around Europe and couch surf from house to house of people you meet in Europe and crash in the cheapest hostels you can find and just go with the wind. Does that sound right when you're in your late 60s, 70s? I mean, that's nice when you're in your 20s. And at the same time, imagine if you were in your 20s and you were gonna take a transatlantic cruise and play pinochle and bingo for days and days on end as you slowly sail across the ocean. None of these things make sense, right? There's certain times in your life where certain experiences fit better. And that was one of the key points from Die with Zero, that you should really think about your life in buckets and think about where an experience would be best placed in your life, because your interests are going to change, your physical capability to do certain things is going to change, and your desire to do certain things is going to change. You might not want to take the backpacking trip in your 60s, and you might not want to take the really long cruise in your 20s. But if you bucket those things and plan it all ahead of time, then you're more likely to live a life that's more fulfilled and cohesive, and you get everything in that you dreamed and hoped to do. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is one of my favorite calculators. It's the Rich, Broke, Dead calculator. So essentially what it's doing is it's showing you the probability of if you're still going to have a bunch of money in retirement, if you're going to go broke, so lose all the money that you save for retirement, or die. So, I mean, it's kind of a grim thought, but it's true, right? We're not here on Earth for forever. And as time goes along, the probability of death goes up just as much as not having money in retirement. So, for the purposes of this example, I actually tried to assume the average American retirement. So the average retirement age is 61 years old in the US. Average spending in retirement is $52,141, and the average savings for someone who's 61 to 62 is $537,560. And then this extra income, I assumed, was their Social Security benefit, using the average number of $1,274.87 per month, which people get on average at the age of 62. So this is a perfectly average American, and I assumed average health. That's what this mortality table section is. And if we scroll down and we look at this graph, we can see that for the majority of outcomes, like, they keep their money. So their balance goes down less than what they started, like 50% of the time. And then as you go further along, you can see the most probable thing is that you're not even on this earth anymore, right? So the inflection point, that 50% chance of you not being on this earth anymore, happens around 81 to 82. So if you retire at 61, you have about 20 years before you're a coin flip away from death's door there. So let's assume you had like really great health. You know, you take care of yourself, you're a vegan or whatever, you're doing your Pilates, you're keeping it tight, you got great health. You can see that it really didn't change the graph too much, right? So that 50% mark moves a couple years. We're at 86 instead of 81, but the overwhelming thing that's likely is death, right? So your probability of growing broke kind of goes up some more. There's like a 34-ish% chance you might go broke with this additional lifespan, but the average American is in pretty good shape. Like, they're going to spend money in retirement, enjoy their retirement, and then at some point they're just going to kick the bucket, and it's unlikely that they'll actually be broke. So what this calculator really drives home is that as you age, you're probably not going to be spending as much as when you are earlier in your retirement. So they like to call it the go-go years. So right when you retire, you still have most of your health, you can still go and do things. So you're taking those cruises, you're taking those vacations, you're going all over the place, doing those activities you said you always wanted to do. And then you got the slow go years where you're curtailing it back. You're doing a few less things, instead of from vacation to vacation, maybe you're doing one vacation a quarter or two a year. And then you have the no-go years where maybe your health is starting to fail and you can't enjoy your retirement the way that you were thinking you would. So one of my good friends, their mother got diagnosed with cancer, and they had almost $5 million in retirement savings. And they don't know how much longer she has, and she is scrambling to squeeze in all the experiences she had been deferring to retirement. Don't wait. Don't wait, because tomorrow is not promised. You don't know how much time you have on earth. And take that time now to do that thing, because as we saw, even the average American is in pretty decent financial shape. The average American can retire and, 3 times out of 4, they don't go broke. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is this financial independence retire early concept called coast fire. So I hadn't heard about this until well into me saving in the FIRE movement. But essentially, coast fire is when you save enough that you no longer have to keep contributing to your retirement accounts in order to retire at your traditional retirement age. So it's not that you retire early, you still retire at the normal time, but you accumulated so much money that you no longer have to keep funneling money towards retirement things, and you can start spending more money in the present. So this is kind of a cool calculator for the extreme savers out there, the people who are taking the FIRE movement to the extreme and feel like they have to skimp and save every dime, every penny. You can come to this calculator and see if you've already hit the numbers where if you continued working and retired at your normal age, you would have your retirement funded, and you can funnel those dollars into today and actually enjoy your life. We're gonna use some of the same average numbers. So the average retirement age of 61, the average annual spending of $52,000 that we used in our other example. And let's assume at 25, you had 100,000 saved. You may or may not, but just for this example, let's assume you did. And then you're contributing $1,000 a month. So if you look at this calculator, it kind of gives you three different lines. So this red line is your financial independence retire early number. So whatever your annual spending is, if you multiply that number by 25, that would be your financial independence retire early number. If you get 25 times what your annual expenses accumulated, you've won the game. That's it. Game over. You can retire whenever you want. You don't have to wait for an age. You've hit the number. You are good to go. So that's what this red line on this graph is. And then this blue line is the coast fire number. So essentially, you fully funded your retirement already, and you have a license to spend more in the present to enjoy your life. And you can keep working your 9 to 5, keep doing your normal day-to-day things, but feel enabled to enjoy your life and spend more in the present. So if you look at this, just contributing $1,000 at 25, you hit your coast fire number at 57, which is still really close to 61. You're not that far off from the traditional average retirement age. But if somehow you were able to save more money at 25, so say you were able to save $200,000, you can see that you hit your coast fire number at like 37. Okay, so like, what if we changed our monthly contributions? What if we changed our contributions from 1,000 to 2,000? You can see we hit our coast fire number at 36. So if you have an aggressive savings rate, you can really hit this coast fire number a lot faster. And if you are earlier in your career, you can hit this coast fire number a lot faster and a lot sooner as well. So this is another cool calculator to think about your spending, think about your retirement planning, and think about what that number is that you actually need to save to be financially independent. So let's talk about the gap year. So the gap year is a year that a lot of college students would take between high school and undergrad, or between their undergrad and their graduate school. And the whole purpose of the gap year is to either travel or volunteer or work and get a set of life experiences so they can better shape themselves for their studies in school, or better shape themselves for what they want to pursue at the graduate level. But this gap year concept is not something that I think has to be reserved for college students. And that was one of the things that Bill Perkins was saying in his book, Die with Zero, is that you don't have to take all of your retirement at the end. If you plan strategically, maybe you can take a year off between jobs, or maybe you can take a year sabbatical right after you have a kid, or whenever. If you put that plan in place and you sort through your finances and what that will look like, you can actually plan portions of your retirement in your life. And it can be way more impactful earlier in life than it will be later in life. Having those sets of experiences earlier can be more informative of what you actually want to do in your actual retirement than having those experiences later. So this gap year concept, even though it was originally designed for students, can be a very powerful tool if you try and implement it into your life and try and plan a way to take that sabbatical for yourself and take those moments away to actually try new things. So let's talk about kids. So the average age people have kids in the US is 27.8 years old. So about 28 years old. And that number has been trending up over the last several years. People are having kids later in life due to all sorts of financial and social reasons, but the average age is 28 years old. And then the average life expectancy in the US is about 77 years old. So you do that math, if you have a kid when you're about 28 and you die when you're 77, then your kid's gonna be about 49 to 50 years old. So if your plan is to pass your money along to your kid after you die, they're going to be 49 or 50 years old. So by that point, they should have it all figured out, or they don't have any of it figured out, and you giving money to them at the age of 50 is not going to have the same impact on their life. Then you actually want to give them the money sooner. You want to be strategic about when you help them financially. So helping them earlier get that first house, pay for college, get that first car, Those large expenses early in their working career, helping with those will be far more impactful than this large payday at the end of your life when they are a fully formed adult and they're either really good with their finances or terrible with their finances, and they already have their money or would squander any money that you give to them. So picking that strategic time earlier to give is kind of important. And the same thing applies to charities. So a lot of people delay their charitable giving thinking, oh, I'll give when I have more income. I'll give when I have more. But the truth is, giving small amounts earlier is more valuable to charities than giving the large amount later in life. It's the same concept as what we were talking about with children. So those were some of my key takeaways from Bill Perkins' book, Die with Zero. I would highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're in the FIRE movement or you're a very aggressive saver. I got a lot out of it. It really opened my eyes to a way of thinking I hadn't even really considered. If you're a type person who just spends money until zero, if zero is your goal every month, that book's probably not for you. If you're still trying to find your financial footing, check out my video where I describe how I would build my wealth from $0 to $1 million. It should give you a very good framework to build that financial foundation, and you can feel comfortable hitting those FIRE or COAST FIRE numbers. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.